Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sid. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Sid_Dwyer. And in today's video, I want to talk about the reality TV show star Tiffany Pollard. I'm sure most of you know of Tiffany in some capacity. She has been on a bunch of reality shows since 2006. She started off as a contestant on one show, and then she got her own shows and some spin-off shows, and just became reality TV royalty. And that was because she is extremely entertaining. She has provided us with some of the most memorable reality TV show moments in history. If you haven't seen any of the shows she's been on, you've definitely seen her memes. She has a long list of iconic memes. She has provided so much for internet culture and will be forever cherished for her contributions. So yeah, in this video I'm going to talk about the context behind some of her memes, go through her many stints on reality television, and talk about some of her most controversial moments. So Tiffany was born in upstate New York to parents Alex Pollard and Michelle Rothschild Patterson, and she lived a pretty sheltered life.
Life was very sheltered for me. Just pretty much church, school, and home. I just never felt like I fully fit in. So I found my escape watching television and saying, bitch, one day you will be somebody.
But despite being able to find an escape by watching TV, she was bullied quite a bit in school. And that was when the character that was later named New York was created.
People would treat me cruel, so I knew that I would have to have a persona for me to protect myself.
But even after putting up a facade, she still wasn't able to deal with the bullying, which resulted in her dropping out of high school 2 years early.
To the point where I had to drop out 2 years earlier.
When she left high school, she had a dream of becoming an actress, to the point where she laid on her mother's green Italian leather couch and prayed to God to be famous. And when she did so, a gust of wind came through her window, indicating that maybe her prayers had been answered.
And the window was open and a wind came in.
Shut your mouth.
I will not lie. I will not play with this. This is God we're talking about.
But her prayers weren't answered immediately, and in the meantime, she had to get a day job. She became a retail buyer for a clothing store, where she would basically look around for merchandise that could be stocked in the company's stores that she worked for. And then for her job to look around for merchandise, she went to California. And while she was there, she was doing some shopping of her own on Hollywood Boulevard. She was looking for a handbag to buy. And while she was doing that, she was interrupted by a guy named Terrence Martin who wanted her information. He told her that he was going to make her the next big thing. And at first, she ignored all of his advances because she thought he was hitting on her, and she had also had that sort of thing happen to her before, but people were giving her offers of being in the adult industry, which she had no interest in doing, so she was just completely ignoring this guy. But he was just so adamant to the point where he followed her into a clothing store, so she finally conceded and gave him her information. And not long after that, she was cast in the first season of Flavor of Love, and the rest was history. And now I just want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Adam and Eve. This video is the perfect video for an Adam and Eve sponsor because Tiffany is always giving X-rated tips and tricks.
If you ever want to tighten up your neck muscles, fellatio is the way to go because it's going to keep you nice and, tucked in under here.
If you don't have someone to do that with, you can totally replicate it by using something from Adam and Eve's wide range of adult products. Use code SID on adamandeve.com for 50% off one item plus free shipping in the United States and Canada. Some exclusions apply. They're a great company. The link to their website is in the description box below. So Flavor of Love was a VH1 reality show where 20 women competed for the love of the celebrity Flavor Flav, as they all lived in a mansion together. In the show, each contestant was given a nickname and was referred to as that nickname for as long as they remained in the competition. On the show, they showed us some of the women getting dubbed with their nickname, but unfortunately, Tiffany wasn't one of those women, so we never really got to find out what the backstory was behind Flav naming Tiffany New York. I watched so many interviews with Tiffany trying to find out why Flav named her New York, but nobody was asking that question, so I think it's just assumed that she was named New York because she comes from New York. So anyway, right out of the gate, there was a lot of friction between New York and the rest of the contestants. Instead of becoming friends with everybody else in the house like all of the other women were doing, New York actively tried to not be friends with everybody. She made it clear that she was only there for Flav and not to make friends. But it was because of her dislike for everybody else in the house that we got some of the iconic memes that we know and love today. One of them is the Beyonce meme.
Jealous because all of my friends that know me tell me that I remind them of Beyonce. So you can all...
Beyonce, Beyonce, Beyonce.
That came to be because she noticed that her black jacket was missing, and previously one of the other contestants, known as Hottie, had said that she would do whatever it took to win, including cutting up people's clothes. So when her jacket went missing, Hottie was the first suspect. And for some reason, the rest of the house rallied behind New York to go and confront Hottie about this. I guess they just wanted it to be a part of history. Hottie denied it, and they just started arguing back and forth, and then Hottie randomly dropped the line about looking like Beyonce, and then that's when New York responded. Also, we never found out what the outcome of New York's jacket was. The next meme that I want to get to the bottom of is the meme of her holding the knife at the dinner table.
Because I see myself pouring the champagne all over the table and leaving. I mean, I was just like a millisecond from doing it.
During that, she was on a date with Flav with another contestant known as Goldie, and Goldie was really grabbing Flav's attention during that date. And New York considered Goldie a plus-sized woman and didn't like that Flav was showing a plus-sized woman more attention than her.
I'm not gonna share my man with another woman. A big girl at that, you know what I'm saying?
So that is why she did not look happy holding that knife. Anyway, there have been mixed takes on whether the contestants knew that Flavor Flav was going to be the love interest. Some seemed to have known beforehand and some didn't.
You didn't know it was Flavor Flav until you went on to the show, is that correct?
I did not. But I knew the whole time when I saw it on Craigslist. They listed it as being a show with Flavor Flav.
Tiffany was one of the contestants that didn't know it was going to be Flav. And a big topic of discussion around the first season was whether or not the women were actually happy that they were competing for Flavor Flav. According to an interview with the contestant known as Pumpkin, she wasn't happy that it was Flavor Flav.
And I'm like, this is so cool, but wow, I have to pretend I like that. You know what I mean? So it was kind of hard.
Were there other girls kind of like in the kind of the same frame of mind as you? It's like, you know, we're here because we want to be on TV. Do you think like New York and everybody really wanted to be with Flavor Flav? Do you think that was...
Hell no.
But Tiffany was actually glad about it.
So, did you really love him? Like, you really wanted him?
Tyra, I was obsessed with Flav. I mean, he is just such a magical person. You guys know, I mean, Tyra, he... Okay.
One person who was especially not happy about it being Flav was her mother, who was introduced to us on the show as Sister Patterson.
My mom is a Scorpio. She comes on strong, she comes on heavy, and she'll remain that way.
I don't want to be seen in public with a man that's 46 years old wearing a freaking clock.
And in the same episode of The Family Visit, Pumpkin gets voted out. And as she's getting voted out, she starts an argument with New York. And then that escalates to the point of Pumpkin spitting New York in her hair and on her chin.
Slap me, bitch! What? You put your hands on me!
Get disrespected in the worst way, you know what I mean? The bitch, she spit in my hair, and a little tiny bit got on my face. So I'm gonna whoop that bitch's ass.
Listen.
Oh my goodness!
Listen.
You smell that? Her breath smelled like straight up. It smelled like a toilet full of nasty ass. Okay.
And this is like one of the biggest moments ever in reality TV. An extended version of that moment was later released, where it was revealed that Pumpkin refused to do an exit interview at first, and we got to see a few extra snippets of New York and her reaction, as well as New York trying to have another attempt at trying to get to Pumpkin to beat her up.
Oh, Lord Jesus, give me the strength. Give me the strength.
I want to go whoop
You
that.
cannot go beat her ass. Go pack your bags. We gotta go. If you go beat her ass, you're not getting on the plane. No, get out of here. Go upstairs.
We have plane to catch.
I gotta get 40 people on a plane to Mexico. Let's go.
So yeah, after Pumpkin was kicked out, that left New York in the final two with another contestant known as Hoops. But when it came down to it, Flav chose Hoops over New York. And then at the reunion show, New York tried to get revenge on Pumpkin, but the security got in the way of her attempts.
I'm not gonna say anything else too, because I've said it all 100 times. You know how I feel about you, and I'm done.
All right, that was it.
Also, after the show, New York and Pumpkin went to a reality TV show award show, and during that time, they seemed to become on good terms for a moment, because they kissed.
I should have brought this out because right when she pulled the card, I was like, bitch, you're the one that made out with me.
Pumpkins brought it up a couple of times, but I can't seem to find any comment from New York about it. So anyway, that brings us to the second season of Flavor of Love. New York doesn't make an appearance until episode 6. She was brought back to help Flav assess the new women, and in her own words, weed out the uglies and the crazies.
And that's what I'm here to do, to weed out the crazies and the uglies.
And that was her purpose for one episode. And during that time, she got into plenty of conflict with the other contestants. Then it came time for the eliminations. 2 contestants were eliminated, and then Flav announced that he wanted New York to join the other women as a contestant vying for his love. So she accepted and rejoined the competition. But because of that, the other contestants were not happy. But the unhappiest of them all was one known as Buck Wild, because she actually left the competition because New York was staying. Also, New York gave herself another nickname this season, which was HBIC, which stands for Head Bitch in Charge.
You know, I'm the HBIC in this motherfucker. I'm not going nowhere.
In an interview several years later, she revealed why she chose HBIC as an alternate nickname.
How did you come up with that, and when did you start calling yourself that, and why?
The title came to me and said, you know what, I'm the HBIC, and that's the head bitch in charge, because these bitches couldn't take me, and they still can't.
New York also made it to the family visit this season as well, and her mother, Sister Patterson, of course, returned for the family visit. And she immediately gets into a fight with Flav. And later, when Sister Patterson is talking to New York about it, that is when we get the what's not clicking meme. Sister Patterson does not see what New York sees in Flavor Flav, to the point where Sister Patterson actually fakes an illness to try and get New York to leave the competition.
I have a condition.
What is it?
They don't have a name for it yet. That's how rare it is.
And when they're eating lunch together, Sister Patterson asks Flav if he's in love with New York, and he says that he could see himself being in love with her. Sister Patterson probes a little further, and he pretty much admits to just wanting friendship. And it was also later confirmed that this was something that the contestants were aware of, because another contestant known as Boots said that the producers or Flav directly informed her that he was just after friends.
I think the producers did tell us, or Flav told us, but one of them, it was probably Flav, said, you know, he's not looking for a relationship, he just wants friendships, which was cool.
But that did not matter to New York though. She was still adamant on showing her love for Flav, and he recognized this, so she made it all the way to the final 2 again. And the other woman she was in the final 2 with was known as Delicious. But before Flav comes to the verdict of who he wants to win, he spends some alone time with each of the contestants. And during his alone time with New York, some red flags go up. New York emphasizes her jealous and controlling ways.
How did you sleep last night?
Hey, I slept like a bug in the rug, you know what I mean? For real.
I mean singular?
How did you sleep?
Or plural? Who did you sleep with? I'm gonna plan our lives together. You'll be happy.
And that actually ended up being the reason why Flav chose Delicious over New York to win. But that is not where it ended. The reunion for Flavor of Love Season 2 has to be one of the most intense reunions for any reality show. As soon as New York walks on stage, Buck Wild throws her shoe at New York. Delicious changes her shoes, but she doesn't throw anything. She changed them so she could comfortably walk up to the stage later. A number of other contestants followed in Delicious's footsteps and also stormed the stage. So then after all of that, VH1 gave her the opportunity to have her own dating show called I Love New York. And that show was pretty much the identical premise of Flavor of Love, but something that was different from Flavor of Love was that New York had the help of someone else. And that person was her mother, Sister Patterson. When all of the men are introduced, she immediately gets to work at accosting them. She interrogates them, and she has a fight with one of them.
You are freaking out of here!
And then she got the ran up. So then I kind of went off like, excuse me, lady. No, blah, blah, blah.
You are out of here. I want him out of here.
Get me out of here.
Woo!
And the name of the guy that she got into an argument with was Chance. And even though Sister Patterson did not like him at all, New York took a liking to him. So that caused Sister Patterson to bribe him with $5,000 to leave.
I came up with this awesome plan to pay Chance off to get the hell out of this house. And I don't care what excuse you give her.
So let's just walk out of here.
He doesn't take the bribe, and he makes it all the way to the final 2 with another contestant known as Tango. But Tango is the one who ended up winning, and he even proposed. After the show ended, New York and Tango stayed in a relationship, which was unlike how it was on Flavor of Love. But they weren't allowed to physically see each other during the 3-month wait between the show ending and the reunion show, because they didn't want fans finding out who New York chose. But they still maintained a long-distance relationship during that time.
I understood what I knew. We were pretty exclusive. Okay. We were in a definitive relationship.
And during that time, the show was also airing, but Tango didn't keep up with the show. For whatever reason, he just wasn't watching it, and he didn't want any of his family members to fill him in on what was happening on the show. He just wasn't interested, but he figured if there was anything that he should have known, that New York would tell him. So he was completely blindsided when the reunion of the show was nearing, and he was doing press for the show, and through that, it was brought up that New York had said some bad things about his mum, and she never gave him a heads up that she did that.
Me and her are talking every single day. At any given time, she could have said, hey, yo, Chan, I'm trying to get spicy. So, yo, I'm saying all this belligerent, disrespectful stuff. Yo, don't be alarmed. I said some crazy about your moms.
Mm-hmm. But she
could have said this at any time.
So this caused him to dump her on the reunion show.
And I watched New York disrespect my mother. And I can't fly. It's over.
And because it didn't work out between her and Tango, she got an I Love New York season 2. So this season was a little bit different from the first. So there was an online poll made up of 20 potential contestants, where the audience had to vote on 5 of those contestants for who they wanted to see be in the running to win New York's heart. And then on top of the 5 contestants who were selected by the public, New York's mum, Sister Patterson, also selected 5 contestants separately to that she called Mama's Boys. And the remaining 10 contestants that would make up a cast of 20 contestants were chosen by production. So skipping ahead a little bit to episode 4, where things really start to heat up, when Mama's Boy, Taylor Made, and production picked contestant Buddha get into a argument. Taylor Made had previously made an agreement with another contestant, which he didn't follow through with. So Buddha was confronting him about it, and then that breaks out into a physical altercation. And because of that, even though New York was really liking Buddha, she had to disqualify him from the competition. In the same episode, Taylor Made also spits in somebody else's face, and New York is not happy about that because, as we know, that is sort of a sore spot for her.
Not you.
I was trying to stay out of it.
After you sit up here and say you here for me, you gonna spit on him?
No, I'm sorry.
Don't you know that's an offense? I've been spit on. How the you gonna do that? You's a dumbass.
But regardless of how she felt about the spitting situation, she kept him around. Then in the very next episode, New York brings Buddha back. But he could only come back if every single contestant in the house agreed to let him come back into the house. And everyone, including Taylor Made, agrees to let him rejoin the competition. And surprisingly, it's actually Buddha and Taylor Made who makes it to the final 2. She liked Buddha a lot, and he would even sneak into her bedroom sometimes.
But he did come in, and but he did come in one night, and I was like, his name is Buddha, he's tall.
But she also liked Taylor Made because he fit her lifestyle. Buddha called Taylor Made a puppy dog because he would basically do whatever New York wanted him to do. So ultimately, it was Taylor Made who won in the end. But much like her relationship with the season 1 winner, it didn't last. In this case, it was because the relationship became strained when New York moved away from New York and moved to Hollywood to do a spin-off show called New York Goes to Hollywood, and Taylor Made did not go with her to do this show. He did make an appearance on her spin-off show to try and make things right, but they ended up breaking up on the show. Nowadays, New York takes full responsibility for the relationship not working out.
But him enduring me every day for hours and hours and hours, it began to be too much. And I accept the whole responsibility and say I'm the one that tore the relationship up.
So now I want to talk about the 2 spin-off shows that New York was a part of. So the first spin-off show that she got that I want to talk about is the one called New York Goes to Work. This show was 8 episodes, and each episode would feature New York doing a job where she was completely out of her depth. But if she was good enough at the job, then she would be rewarded with a $10,000 check. Also, this was another show where there was an online voting system where the public got to vote on what jobs they wanted New York to do. She had to work on a pig farm, be a clown, be an exterminator, work at a nude resort, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So now I want to talk about the second solo spin-off show that she did called New York Goes to Hollywood. And this show was completely different to every other show that she had done because this show gave us some interesting insight to her home life. On top of her trying to make it in Hollywood as an actress, we also got to see more glimpses of her and her mum. We got to see her interact with tailor-made, and we get to see how she deals with an assistant. So yeah, the show basically starts off with New York trying to find an assistant. She then decides on someone named Liza, who helps her organize a showcase for her acting to try and get her a manager. And she does end up getting a manager who scores her an unpaid role in a Japanese commercial for a Japanese energy drink. She doesn't mind that it's unpaid, she's all about getting some acting experience under her belt. So she wants to study for that role, and that is how we got the meme of her asking a Korean person how to speak Japanese.
I was hoping maybe like if you could teach me how to speak Japanese, just a couple of words. You speak Japanese?
No. Korean?
You Korean?
Yes.
Is that the same as being Japanese or not at all? Like it's not even close?
No.
Thank you so much.
TaylorMade also makes an unexpected appearance towards the end of the season. They go to dinner and get into a fight. New York accuses him of completely changing ever since he got like a taste of fame after I Love New York 2 aired. And then he ends up storming away from the table, and that's pretty much when they break up. Mr. Patterson also comes to town for a couple of episodes, and she's pretty vicious towards New York's assistant, Liza.
Okay, so I will see you tomorrow.
And tomorrow, please do not wear those bulletproof shoes. I can't stand all that clacking and clacking around.
Well, have a great night, you guys.
I'm talking to you. I'm not finished yet.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Please make sure you comb your hair tomorrow, okay?
My hair was combed.
Of course, my mom has to get in one last insult before Liza leaves.
And tidy up.
Well, this is how I wore my hair.
I hope Liza comes back tomorrow.
She's so mean that Liza calls in sick to work. And when she's talking to New York over the phone to tell her this, Sister Patterson grabs the phone and starts yelling at Liza.
Get here! Get here now! Or don't come back! My mom was so fuming that Liza wasn't here. She told Liza if she didn't get her ass here, not to bother coming at all ever again.
And New York is actually very understanding towards Liza for not wanting to come in because of her mother. Overall, it seemed like New York genuinely liked Liza, but there were certainly some pretty bad times between the two of them. In the show, she would occasionally be pretty mean, controlling, and demanding of Liza, but the worst of it all was actually revealed in bonus clips for the show.
This is what I don't want.
You know what? Well, you knew who you was working for.
I know.
You knew who you was working for. You can stand up, you fucking big bird bitch. I don't give a fuck. You a robot.
I'm not a robot.
Your ass. Now
You don't pay me enough to do this.
You're gonna come and
No, you're not gonna do this. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
What you wanna do?
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
What you wanna do? You gonna come have dinner with me?
Okay, but calm down.
We've seen New York get pretty confrontational with the other contestants on the dating shows she's been on, but I do think that she crossed a line here with Liza. And I did actually reach out to Liza on Instagram after I watched New York Goes to Hollywood, and she says that her and New York still talk and they're good. So I guess no harm done at the end of the day. Anyway, at the end of the season, she lands an acting gig, but she is told if she wants to pursue acting, she needs to drop her New York persona. And at the same time, she's also approached by the VH1 producers to do I Love New York 3. So she's pretty torn, but she ultimately decides to go with her work in acting and abandon her persona as New York.
I've come to a decision.
On doing I Love New York 3?
Yes, I decided to pursue my acting career.
And stop doing reality altogether?
You know, I have to tell you, Mark and Chris, I gotta follow my heart.
But she takes that back literally seconds later, saying that she'll do whatever for a check.
No more reality TV for me. Who in the hell am I
kidding. If this thing doesn't work out, I'll be back for I Love New York season 3 through 13. And if it does work out, I'll be back for New York Goes to Hollywood Part 2. I am not turning down a paycheck.
I just want to quickly talk about what happened to I Love New York 3, because as we know, it didn't ultimately end up happening. But it was very much going to happen. In the first quarter of 2010, VH1 ordered the cancellation of all of their reality TV shows, which included I Love New York 3, as well as New York Goes to Hollywood 2. And this was due to the murder-suicide case of Ryan Jenkins. He was a former contestant on Megan Wants a Millionaire, which was another VH1 dating show. And because of VH1 distancing themselves from that kind of reality TV, this caused New York to go on a 7-ish year hiatus.
Like, you were getting all of these spin-offs, and then all of a sudden, like, that kind of era just ended.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to New York? Where did she go?
The tragedy that transpired was totally out of my control.
Mm.
And I don't want to brush on it too much because people lost their lives, and I don't want to seem by no ways that I'm saying my career is bigger than that, but I ain't gonna lie to you, I had 2 shows in the green, meaning literally I was about to shoot I Love New York 3, and I was about to shoot New York Goes to Work Part 2, but they had went overseas to another country to shoot, I believe it was I Love Money Season 2, and then before that show wrapped, one of the contestants went back, killed himself, and unfortunately killed one of his girlfriends or ex-girlfriend, and because of that, you know, we had to stop doing the shows that we had planned, and all that stuff kind of went into hiatus.
Another thing that I also want to mention quickly that has to do with her return to reality TV is her appearance on the TV show Botched. During her appearance on there, she talks about how her botched breasts have held her back from returning to reality TV. So she gets the doctors on that show to fix them, and then she is ready to make her big return to reality TV.
Having Dr. Nassib and Dr. DeBro put my physical where my mental is, it's time for me to go to work. Everybody loves New York, don't you?
And her big return was her participating in the UK version of Celebrity Big Brother in 2016. And after appearing on that show, she has since said that this was the hardest show she's ever done.
Looking back, is there one you wish you wouldn't have done?
I would say that Celebrity Big Brother was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Why was that?
I mean, you're in there in a house. Nobody hardly knows you because this is taking place in the UK. So I might be the HBIC in America, but in London,
They didn't give a
go get us some tea, you know, kind of thing.
But aside from the difficulties of being locked up in a house for a month, she was also at a disadvantage because she was an American on a British show. As she said, she was screwed since the minute she walked into the house.
I've been since the time I walked down those stairs.
And she really expected to not really be given a chance on this show because she only packed for 2 weeks.
So I would say my highest point is making it to the finals because I literally only packed for 2 weeks.
But despite being at a disadvantage, she got lucky because it was her birthday the night that they entered the house. Because of that, she was able to make a connection with a British housemate named Gemma Collins. Gemma gave Tiffany a pair of her Dolce & Gabbana shoes as a birthday present. And from then, things were going pretty smoothly. That was until day 7. Angie Bowie, who was also another contestant in the house, who was David Bowie's ex-wife, got the news that David Bowie died of cancer. She doesn't immediately tell everybody in the house, she keeps it pretty private, but Tiffany notices that something is off with Angie. Tiffany asks her what's wrong, and then Angie confides in her and tells her that David is dead.
David's dead. No, he's not.
But Tiffany thinks that Angie is referring to another contestant in the house, David Guest. Thinking that one of her fellow contestants has just keeled over in the diary room, Tiffany freaks out. And despite Angie not wanting her to tell anybody else, she needs to talk to the other contestants about this. Like Tiffany, the other contestants also freak out, and then they go into the sleeping area to find that David is in the bed asleep. not dead. And David seems completely unfazed by people coming up to his bed to see if he's alive, because he immediately just pulls the covers right back over him. And as the pandemonium is ensuing, Angie calls for help from Big Brother, and she disappears into the diary room. So rewinding just a little bit, when Angie got the news that David Bowie had died, Big Brother had called actor John Partridge and David Guest into the diary room to help console Angie. So after Angie disappeared into the diary room, John Partridge and David Guest were the only two people who could provide some clarity on this situation. But as you saw, David Guest was too sick and too tired to do that. So the only person who could help was John Partridge. But during this time, while the house is in complete turmoil, he is in the shower, so he could not immediately clarify any confusion. So while all this chaos is going on, another contestant goes and interrupts John while he's in the shower. Like, that is how serious it got. Somebody is interrupting someone else in the shower to tell them what is happening. So then he leaves the shower, soaking wet, to clarify things. But Tiffany is still pretty riled up and believes that Angie set her up. This causes the other housemates to dislike Tiffany because she's not able to calm down and support Angie during her grief. And this causes Gemma Collins to say that she wants her shoes back.
I want my shoes back.
And then later in the competition, there's a challenge where Big Brother reads out a quote that one of the housemates have said, and the housemates have to guess which housemate said that quote. Big Brother reads out Gemma's quote where she says, "I want my shoes back." And Tiffany had a pretty big reaction to that.
Oh, bitch, you want your shoes back? The shoes that you... Yeah. I'm gonna give them to you.
And then Tiffany made it all the way to the end of the competition where she placed third. Also, just swinging back to the David situation real quick, she did apologize to Angie in the game, but this is how she feels about that situation now.
Because she set me up.
You think
She
so?
knew, okay, this black bitch is gonna get an emotion if I say a David died. And she didn't tell me the correct David.
Right.
You know, I would have had emotion if David Bowie had died, because I'm a big fan.
Right.
You know, we know Iman, we grew up to David Bowie, we know all that. But she made it feel like it was the David that was in the house.
Right.
She goes, David's dead.
So in 2016, she made her return to VH1 with Sister Patterson to participate on Family Therapy with Dr. Jenn. And they go on this show to help mend their toxic relationship, but it's really only Tiffany who actually wants to work on their relationship. Tiffany wants there to be some separation between her and her mother, and she wants her mother to see her as a grown woman. Sister Patterson resists all of it and actually hits Tiffany twice on the show, and then it is revealed that Tiffany thinks she's pregnant. And so Dr. Jenn gets her a pregnancy test.
I'll make sure to get you a pregnancy test.
Oh, please, please.
That's a concern.
Okay, whatever.
We definitely want to make sure.
She then takes the test, and according to the test, she is in fact pregnant. And that is a pretty hard pill for Sister Patterson to swallow. She does not believe it at all, and she says that if Tiffany is pregnant, then she will take Tiffany's baby.
The baby automatically...
plan is to take her baby.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, at the end of the day, Sister Patterson just doesn't believe that Tiffany is actually pregnant. But at one point when Sister Patterson's brother comes onto the show to help her see some sense, she does seem to come to the realization that Tiffany is actually pregnant. But unfortunately, at a later date, Tiffany ends up having a miscarriage, which is pretty unfortunate because before and after she went on this show, she has talked about wanting children. And she's had 4 miscarriages, so I really feel for her that she's had to go through that multiple times when she's actually wanted children.
But I mean, just going through a miscarriage is just like the hardest thing ever in my life. And, you know, I'm not ashamed to say it, but that was like my 4th.
And what makes me feel for her more is that she has to deal with Sister Patterson. While Family Therapy was still airing, but filming had concluded, Sister Patterson and Tiffany make an appearance on the Steve Harvey Show. And Tiffany had to go on this show intoxicated because she didn't know how to deal with her mother any other way, because she knew this was going to be intense. So clearly, Family Therapy did them no favors. And it was revealed that even though Sister Patterson acted as if she believed Tiffany was pregnant, she now no longer believes that.
I lost my child, and it was one of the most painful things I could ever. And you never even believed me to start.
That's right. And where's the baby?
I'm done.
So yeah, it still seems like they have a pretty tumultuous relationship. Moving on from that, I now want to talk about the transphobia controversy that Tiffany encountered in 2020. So So Tiffany made an appearance on the dating show called One Mo Chance. And this dating show was for Chance, one of the final 2 in I Love New York season 1. She was basically just popping in to see if the women who were competing for his heart were suitable for him. And she accuses the contestant, Tiffany Walker, of being a man. And the viewers of this show called this out for being transphobic. She then responded to the controversy in an Instagram post.
Let me say this, and say it loud, free, and clearly, that I am not transphobic. I could never be. I can't even play that way. I don't have a transphobic bone in my body.
She also commented on a gossip Instagram saying that the woman who she accused of being trans wasn't actually trans. And that in and of itself received a lot of backlash as well, because even though the person who she was calling a man wasn't trans, it was still transphobic to say something like that. Some people even considered that more transphobic than her original offense. And this sort of thing from Tiffany came as a huge shock, because she is a big icon in the LGBTQ+ community, and she has expressed her love for that community many times before.
I have such a connection with my gay fans. I love them so much because they understand what it is to be misunderstood.
But after this controversy, Tiffany took a few weeks off of social media. Then she returned in the form of an Instagram live. In that live, she was joined by a trans woman who helped her understand what she said was transphobic and how she could do better.
So I just want to start off by speaking about the comment section, not only on this live, but also on your most recent explanation video. And that although there were a bunch of folks who pour out support for you, saying that what happened was not transphobia, right? And that even you stating in your video that there's not a transphobic bone in your body, right? What happened, the language that was used, that was transphobic. That was an act of transphobia. And I understand that it may be difficult for you to accept, but I also want you to keep in mind, and for everyone in the audience to keep in mind, the impact and the effect that these kinds of languaging and that these kinds of behaviors have directly on trans people.
So yeah, after Tiffany really put in the work to try and be better, things pretty much went back to normal for her. And yeah, that's pretty much where it's at now. She has participated in a bunch of other reality TV shows that I haven't mentioned, but none of them were really significant enough to bring up. Yes, a lot of the shows she appeared on birthed some really iconic memes, but that's all I could really say about them. She has also scored a couple of acting roles over the years. She appeared as herself, but in an acting role on the show Nip/Tuck.
Miss New York herself. I'm sitting next to New York. She's huge.
That's right, honey. I am big.
And she was also in Sharknado 5.
You can create the Sharknado at will.
I can create a Sharknado.
But even though it was a massive dream of hers, she has since given up on acting.
And also, I know that you want to be an actress as well.
Oh, child, please.
I see that for you. No, I see that for you for real.
And I want to be more of a TV personality now.
Girl, you been that since.
And I'm rocking that, yeah. Because that acting stuff, it's hard to remember them lines and all of that.
I want to act.
And this year she was the host of the reality show Hot House, which was a show aimed at trying to find the next queer symbol. So yeah, that was a pretty unique show, and being the host of it, Tiffany was able to broaden her resume. And in the future for Tiffany, she wants to open up her own HBIC ministry.
I will have my own HBIC ministry. Yes, I will. I'm going to be a televangelist. This is a big dream of mine, and I feel like I'm coming into fruition of it, and it's starting to take hold of me, and I know I'm going to be one of these great people that leads people to heaven.
And that is pretty much everything. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Don't forget to drink water, be nice to animals. Let's take a moment of silence for everyone who has to deal with Karens. And I'll see you in my next video.